He ain't got no dog in him.
If you ain't got no dog in you, it's like you cool. Thanks for joining us, but everybody want a dog, So
Yeah,
then I kind of quickly adjusted to that and looked around and saw like because we obviously had billing, right? You could see people's productivity and their output, so that was the
yeah,
tool where it's like, oh, she's a dog. You think
yeah.
she's not doing it there, but sis in there done built 1,900 hours this month.
Mm, mm, mm.
How does she do
So
that? It's not simple.
welcome back to Coffee Chats with ChimeInSis. I'm Rosalind, the host, and today we have Victoria Robinson, entrepreneur, mommy friend, attorney, and fellow Memphian. How are you doing,
Yeah,
Victoria?
I'm good, girl. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm so excited to have you on. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and get started and jump into your career story. So, how did you become an attorney? Tell me more about your process.
Let's see. I always say it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like you if you're a talker when you're a child and you know how to debate or whatever, it's like, oh, you're gonna make a great judge one day. So it was just that was from as early as I can remember, like, oh, I'm gonna be a lawyer. So go to college. I went to Duke for undergrad, and it's like coming up on junior year, and of course everybody at Duke is like they're overachievers. It's like, okay, I'm about to start studying for
Mm,
the LSAT, and I'm like, this came faster than faster than I anticipated. I don't know about that. And you just knew like it's not something you play with. So I'm like, I'm not really ready to go yet. So I did a year of master's program for 2 years in Los Angeles, and then came back to Memphis actually to teach because I got caught up in this education bug, and Memphis
yep.
was going through like a lot of ed reform. Like it was the hotbed for ed reform, and I wanted to be in the thick of it. So I taught seventh grade, 11th grade English, and then I was like, this is probably harder than if I just went to law school. So at that point, I'm
Mm,
like, well, now I can go back, but I have like a little life experience under me. But then
mm,
also, I just knew to help students the way I wanted to, like that was policy changes, right? It's not just merely the day to day, but if I really wanted to be able to impact them holistically, it was probably gonna be some policy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going back to law school because people will take me seriously then.
mm.
Because you come out, you fresh out, college or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're just a young teacher. You don't know anything." Blah blah blah.
Oh, for
But
sure.
like the same things that I thought were strange when I was a student were still kind of strange as a teacher. So that's probably a
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
So motivation was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to law school, and then maybe my opinion will be more valued. So
Mm.
as luck would have it, I would, or not luck, like God would have it,
Yeah.
I landed a fabulous summer position with a very great firm that was, we had a really large office in Memphis. It's a regional firm, national firm, about 800 attorneys. So it would be big law, and loved it so much to be able to like find this position and be in Memphis was just like more than I could probably have dreamed of. I always said I would never come back to Memphis. But I just felt like there are
You
some
know.
things, and I think most people say that like when you leave home, you're not coming back. But there are just
Yeah.
things in that I could. This is the time for me to be here. So, um, great, great position. Could not say no. It was literally everything I would want in a first real job, like my big girl job, legal
Yeah.
job. And yeah, so that's kind of how I landed back here. Well, definitely how I landed back to Memphis, but yeah.
Awesome. So tell us more about how you actually pivoted within law. So I know that you've had some different roles, and sometimes like when we think about law, I'm like, oh, you're an attorney. And it's like there's
Yeah.
so many different things that you can do. So like I'm an attorney, but I specialize in this. So like
Yeah.
give us some more color as to like some of the things that you've done within law and how you've been able to pivot.
So again, just super blessed to be at a firm that appreciated my strengths but then also gave me the opportunity to grow. So of course, when you think about law, you think about the courtroom and lawsuits and things like that. Criminal, I did no criminal anything. I was on the civil side. So I started off in litigation where I would be taking cases that would potentially go to court. I was doing some like medical malpractice and defense work for
Mm.
hospitals, like the larger hospitals in Memphis. And then I'm like, well, I really love business, and I love seeing how the just how these corporations start. I mean, startups to even like our larger institutional clients. It was so
Mm.
fascinating to me. So at the time we had a need, there weren't any junior attorneys that were in the corporate side. And I'm like, well, pick me, I'll go. And
Right.
they're like, are you sure? Corporate attorneys are introverts. Corporate attorneys don't talk to, they like to work in silo. And I'm like, okay, but I guess I'm a unicorn. I want to do it. So, um, I switched over to our corporate side and started doing mergers and acquisitions. And when I tell you God is good, I went to a business camp when I was in high school, Youth About Business. Shout out to Youth About Business. And then that's a whole nother story about like these organizations that cultivate
Yes.
like your strengths in high school. But we met with a corporate attorney. I'll never forget her name. Her name was Vivian Laborde. If you ever see this, Vivian, you were like an inspiration. And she worked at Skadden in New York. And we were meeting with these advisors. And Skadden is like the largest mergers and acquisitions like
Wow.
firm in like probably the world. And I said, I want to be a mergers and acquisitions attorney. And that's exposure very early. So
Mm.
marrying that with like my passion for business, it became okay, I can do this right here at my firm. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was willing to learn. It was like not easy. It was a quick steep learning curve, especially because I was at the time the only junior associate in my office doing this work, but fell
Mm.
in love with corporate transactions. Oh my gosh. So my proudest transaction would be the merger and acquisition of Tri-State Bank, which started as
Awesome.
the first bank in Memphis, well, that was founded by people of color for people of color.
Hmm.
And I mean, just for decades has been an anchor in our communities, providing, lending to people of color, financial education, literacy, all of those things. And
Wow.
they actually merged with Liberty Bank that was headquartered out of New Orleans, which had a similar mission, similar story, Black owned still. Black founded. I mean, shareholders black, baby, it's a black. Okay, but they acquired Tri-State, and with that acquisition, made Liberty the largest African American owned founded bank in the United States. So, just
That's
to
awesome.
like to think, I'm sure my grandparents or my great grandparents, when this
Mm.
bank was opened, I've literally ancestors' wildest dreams to think that like their descendant would be at the front line helping to get this deal closed. And
Wow.
it just was on the everything, it was still during the pandemic, so everything was virtual. Just to be on the Zoom when the deal was closing with the folks who still were shareholders and still account holders at this bank, and them just speaking of like the civil rights movement and their parents
Mm.
starting accounts at this bank, when they were children. It's like, wow. Like, I mean, I literally had
That's
goosebumps.
amazing.
So I'm
That's
like, okay,
amazing.
it is. And for it to happen when I was, and that's like, you have to be flexible and agile and open to opportunities. And
Mhm.
sometimes, no, if there would have been other associates more senior to me, they would have, been the person on the front line getting this deal moved. But it wasn't. So it's like when preparation and opportunity meet, then it's go time. And that's what it was
Yeah.
for me. It's like I had prepared myself, obviously, to just to dive into whatever is asked of me. And this
Mhm.
opportunity, and for it to happen when I made that transition was just like, God, I thank you. So that was like one of four big transactions that happened for me very quickly. And I'm transitioned during the pandemic, right, to a new role where the market was lending itself to a lot of M&A activity. So I came in right at
Mm.
like this, to do that many transactions and be like in the basically like the passenger seat with the partner that I worked with was I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better like entry and exit to to my time as a corporate associate. And what was also funny was that like now these deals are closed. When I drive past Liberty, I'm like, I did that, or I drive past
Yes.
Simmons Bank merger, my bank was acquired. I did that. And these other banks, so it's like, or I mean, I had a client who they distribute all of the snacks to Starbucks worldwide right out of Memphis. They
Wow.
went through a big recapitalization project, something that I had never heard of before, but I'm like, I have the skill set, right? So did that.
Hmm.
So I'm like at the airport, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my,
Yeah.
my
Oh,
clown turkey sandwich right there.
for sure.
uh,
Pat yourself on the back. It's deserved.
I know, and
Something.
sometimes you don't stop and do that. Then it's like when I'm telling you that, it's like, hold on, wait a minute, that sounds
Yeah.
like, girl, you
But
did all that. You did.
But no, that is a first of all, that's a huge part of like chime in sis, because I feel like when we start talking about some of the things that we've done, like you're like, hold up, like you said, I've done all of this. Like, yeah, I'm bomb. Like what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing is making
Yeah,
an impact. And something else that I'm thinking about for you, legacy, like the fact that you were a part of these mergers and acquisitions and like these banks that are there, and like being able to go by, these places with your daughters and being able to say, like, I was a part of
yeah,
that. Like, how awesome is that?
yeah,
Another thing that I want to ask you a little bit about, it's about positioning. So I know that you spoke
yeah.
about, you saying that you wanted to get some experience in mergers and acquisitions, that when the opportunity arose. Was there anything that you had to do to like position yourself for that? Did you have to do some upskilling? Did you have to, do some networking, say, hey, I'm interested, can you get me in the door? How are you able to do that?
Yeah, so even in a firm context, right, you have to market yourself. Like, and that was the
Mhm.
first thing they tell you. Your clients are the partners, right? Are the senior
Mhm.
attorneys. So when you come through the door, no, I'm not face to face with clients, but I'm face to face with someone who's going to give me this work. So my job is to make their job the easiest it can possibly be. So how do I
Mm.
do that, right? I'm making sure that I'm submitting quality work. I'm making sure that I'm asking. Like closed mouths don't get fed. I don't know, like in
Mm.
any industry, but I had to put myself out there, and it's like that. I have to talk to people who I literally don't know. And even talking about this now, I'm like, dang, so much growth, so much I've learned. Of course, that you pick up in hindsight. I'm like, I'm kind of missing a little bit, but let me snap back out there, right? Really quickly. But you're marketing yourself to all of the people around you. Like, and you're
Mm.
always going to be your biggest advocate in whatever sector, wherever
Yes.
phase of your life. Like, if you don't believe in yourself and put yourself out there, then you're gonna run with the pack. And that wasn't,
Mm.
you get type A personalities, right? Like in law firms. So you
Yeah.
want to stay. Well, you got people who don't who's like, I'm fine getting what's given to me. Then you got other people's like, no, I want to dominate. I'm here, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. So it was like I wasn't. I used to have pride, like I didn't want to seem desperate, and then what you find out culturally that may be a black thing, right? In other cultures,
Mm.
what we look at is kissing tail or being extra. Other people see that as I'm going to get it, right? Like
Mm.
I'm going
Mm.
to be assertive. I'm going to be top of mind. So I've been blessed to have mentors who've gotten that lesson first and can send it down to me. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
we can get to it mentorship because that's the whole thing. But it's a part of that hidden curriculum, going to advocate for yourself and not being afraid to say, "Hey, I'm willing to try this. I haven't done it before, but I would love to, shadowing opportunities." And
Mm.
that means a lot because other people aren't doing it. Like you would think other people may be asking, but they aren't. So
Yeah.
it makes their life easier. It's like, hey, it's somebody who wants to do this. We have a need and you can feel the need. And it's,
Mm.
you got to go get it. That is like my husband is a football coach and we always talk about we want dogs, right? Like on the field. If he ain't got no dog in him,
He
like
ain't got no dog. He ain't got no dog in him.
if you
That's
ain't got no dog in you, it's like you cool. Thanks for joining us. But everybody want a dog, so
Yeah.
that I kind of quickly adjusted to that and looked around and saw, like, because we obviously had billing, right? You could see people's productivity and their output. So that was a
Yes.
tool where it's like, oh, she's a dog. You think
Yeah.
she's not doing it there, but sis in there and built 1,900 hours this month.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
How did she
So
do that? It's not Sinbad.
yes. So something that we spoke about too, that we were going to touch on, sponsorship. So how were you able to leverage those relationships, because that's a huge part. So like it's about you and what you bring to the table, but then you also have to have somebody else who can kind of give that extra, she's good, I'm giving you that
Yeah.
good word. So how are you able to like navigate that and figure out who should be my sponsor, who should be my mentor, and how are you able to leverage those relationships and get what you needed from those?
There is strategy, right, that goes into especially in the corporate space.
Yeah.
But also if you're an entrepreneur, it's very transferable. It's very transferable. I am somebody who believes you go to the top, right? You
Mm,
identify, like you do your research.
yeah.
We got this, right? There is nothing that should be a mystery to you. So if you're trying to climb in an organization, or you're trying to climb, your business in a marketplace, you should have done research. Who are the
Mm,
players? Um,
mm,
who bringing in the money? Who know the deal flow? Who knows what's going on?
mm.
Not to say, like, because I was a junior associate at the time, right? So I'm not going to just skip over the senior associate, but I'm going to talk to if there are opportunities. And I'm old school millennial, I guess. Like, I still believe in protocol. Like, you don't just
Oh yeah.
skip around, but you do your research. So even if it's a senior associate, that's who I need to be talking to. And I know that's who my first client is. What senior associate is getting the work around here? What senior
Mm,
associate is, on the publications, the articles? What senior so then I want to talk to this person, right? This person
mm.
who's doing the job well. And let me interview you. So tell me what's going on. So, and I think when you are asking people genuine questions like, okay, how do I improve myself? And then what can I offer to you? It has to
Mm,
be, it should be reciprocal. It's an
yeah.
exchange. Life is transactional. Conversations, relationships, life is transactional. So what are you doing, sis? Or what are you doing, bro? I don't know you,
Mm,
but I
mm,
know your hours. I know your work. I've heard other people mention you. I'm new here, or I'm growing here. I want to position myself to be known as somebody who is good work product, thorough,
mm.
detailed. So having those conversations, so then you're top of mind and cultivating those conversations, and it goes hands in hand, like with mentors. I'm
Yeah.
building that relationship. I'm watering that relationship so that when an opportunity comes, I'm top of mind for that person who can say, well,
Mm,
Victoria is interested, or these are the things she shared with me, or, I gave her this assignment or asked her to do something. She knocked it out of the park. I think she would be great. You have to have people who also, you advocate for yourself, you build those relationships, but then other people will advocate for you. So it
mm,
makes it just easy. So it's like, okay, I trust you. We have this understanding. I know your work. I can speak to your work product. Now let me bring you into what's going on. Now let me introduce you to this partner. So it's
mm,
like, I mean, I consider like life, it's a journey map. But if you are
yeah.
very intentional about fostering relationships, building relationships, showing up, offering something, because you've done your research, and you've done your research, so you know what this person does, right? For the most
Mhm.
part. Or I just want to get, like, what are the opportunities? Because I'm talking real fast because I want to make sure I say these things. But like, you
Yeah.
think of, like, there's an umbrella, right? You don't, when you're entering a space, especially, and you're figuring out a space, it's just stuff you don't know to know. So unless
So
you're
much.
unless you're
It's
asking,
so much.
like, somebody has to tell you. So you don't get that unless you are asking questions, you're seeking that information.
Well, Victoria, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I am just so excited and happy to have even, been able to connect with you. And I'm so
Thank
excited to
you.
hear the things that you're doing. And I just appreciate your candor and your willingness to share. And I know that the listeners will too. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. Keep shining, sis.